It all started back when I work out. I've always tried to work out for well, number of decades now to stay in halfway decent condition. And I've never had any physical problem other than my loss of eyesight, as most people who know my work understand. I've been blind since 1993, but other than that, I've been in very good health. I've never had any problems at all. Just because I've never
Amen.
taken any more than maybe an occasional antibiotic for something or other. But I was out finishing up my workout, and I came in. I had behind my sternum was a very strong burning. It was like began like bad indigestion. Well, the pressure started building along with that indigestion. I said, well, I'll walk around and kind of stretch, and I'll work it out. But it got worse and worse and worse. My hands got clammy. My breathing got shallow, and I had to sit down in my recliner. Told my wife Margaret, I said, you better call 911. I guess that, of course, that just totally freaked her out because I don't like to go to a doctor for anything, much less for have an ambulance come and get me. But they were out there shortly, and they were trying to feel around for a pulse. They couldn't find one. Neither of the guys who came out there said, I can't find one. Well, they had the audacity to ask me to get up and make it through the furniture in the living room and so forth to the outside, to the gurney. Would you mind walking out to the gurney with no pulse? so I said, well, I guess so. So I did, and I got to the gurney, and I don't remember having any particular difficulty doing it, but it got worse and worse as we head toward the hospital, which is about I'd say 2 miles from our home. And as they were pulling out, opening the back of the doors and pulling the gurney out, Kevin, I heard this blip. It was an electronic sounding blip, and all of a sudden I was in front of just a throng of young people. They were cheering and they were jumping up and down. They were looked like they were in their 20s, young men and young women, the most beautiful people, and the bright, brilliant lights. And here I am, blind. I'm seeing all this, and I mean, it was. I was there, and they bid me to come to them, and I started toward them, and everything started getting dark around me. Well, the next thing I knew, I was thinking I was having a heart attack or something, I thought, and then I woke up on the gurney, and I heard this young man say I had to hit him with the paddles. And of course, my first reaction, being having a journalistic reporter's mind, was, "Oh, what paddles?" And he said, "We had to hit you with the defib paddles because your heart stopped." Well, I said, I didn't think much about it. I didn't even think once about having died, or I just said, "You ought to see where I just been."
Wow.
And they didn't, and they didn't pay any attention to me, and they were busy trying to save my life, and
you weren't really connecting the dots yourself, I guess.
No, I had no idea. I mean, this is totally new to me, and so they were wheeling me on down the hall. My wife said that the doctors were looking at her, and they said, we just don't think we're going to be able to save him. We're going to do our very best. And she said, she saw me go by on the gurney, and I was ashen, and looked dead already. And I got on further down, and I heard the same blip. The pressure built again in my chest, and I felt the same blip, heard the same blip. And I was again in front of that same throng of young people. They were cheering, jumping up and down, and just smiling brightly and having the best time. And I said, I want to be a part of this. And I don't remember anything about having been here or anything else. So I joined them. I started to join them again. I walked toward them, and again, everything turned dark. And I woke up on the gurney again. I said, "You should see what I just saw," and the guy was fiddling with in the groin area where they put the catheter to take the blockage out of the artery. And I said, "What are you doing?" And the same kid that said had to hit you with the paddle, he said, "They're trying to save your life." He said it kind of like, "Well, why don't you shut up so we can work?" And so I did, and so they did that, but the blip happened again, and the same thing. Everything all of a sudden, now instantaneously now, I was in the midst of these young people, these cheering young people. This time I was in the middle of them, and we were running. As you were looking at a television screen, it'd be like from left to right. We were running. They were looking over at me, and I remember this one young woman in particular. She was looking over at me, and she was smiling, just brightly, beautiful, beautiful girl, and had her arms raised. They all did, and they were cheering, and we were running effortlessly towards something. I didn't know what, but we were running, and I was loving it, and I was thinking, wow, I want to be here forever. And all of a sudden, everything started getting dark. And that time, I remember thinking, during this dark journey, I remember thinking, I don't want to leave this place. Well, I was on on the gurney again. They had removed the blockage, and the cardiologist interventionist had just removed it. And incidentally, to show you God's providence, this guy's from India. He's a specialist. He lectures. He's such an expert all over the world. But he just happened to be in my little town of Benton in the Saline County hospital. He was teaching some people how to do the interventional type things. And he's the guy that was in the next room when they hauled me in, and he did the actual thing. And so I was back, and he said, "Let me show you what we've done here. You had what I call the widowmaker, what we call the widowmaker heart attack." And I said, and he said, "See here?" And I had a screen up above me. I said, "No, I can't see. I've been blind since 1992 or 93." And he said, "Okay." He came around behind me, and he ran his finger down the left side of my chest, and he said, "We removed it from this." I think he said the lower left descending ventricle or something like that, and we removed it. And I said, "Well, I guess I'm still here." He patted me on the shoulder. "You're still here." His last words to me were, "You can forget your breakfast, but you better not forget your pills." And so I said, "Okay." And that was the story of that whole thing. And every morning when I awake, the first thing I think of and see in my mind's eye is that beautiful crowd of young people. The Lord has shown me it was Hebrews 12, verses 1 through 3. It was a cloud of witnesses. We were surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. And the last part of that verse 2 is we're running a race, toward the throne of God, toward Christ, and the author and finisher of our faith.